Right on.
All right, good afternoon. We're going to be starting our Calling All Trades Jobs for a Green Economy, session number 2. And today we have with us Shane Peters. And I will introduce him in just a second, but I want to introduce myself first. I'm Drew Johnstone. I'm with the City of Santa Monica's Office of Sustainability and the Environment, and really pleased to co-host this speaker series and bring together tradespeople in our community to tell Santa Monica residents and interested job seekers about potential careers in the trades and what it takes to start the journey with training and networking and opportunities in the trades in our city and in the region. So with that, I've got some questions to ask Shane, but Shane, if you'd like to please introduce yourself and what you do for a living.
Okay, well, go ahead.
We'll take it from there.
All right, well, I'm Shane Peters. Currently, I'm the plumbing and mechanical plans examiner for the City of Santa Monica Building and Safety. I review plans and the new construction that come in for code compliance for the plumbing code, mechanical code, and some of the energy and green codes. But there's and the building codes. There's many different codes, municipal codes. There's just various different codes. So, yeah, I've been there for what year we in? 2021, probably 16 years or so. And then before that, I was a building inspector. And before that, I was a pipe fitter for our water department for 10 years. And then I was a plumber before that. So I've been in the industry most of all of my adult life, really. So I enjoy the trades. Anything with pipe and water in it, or even, waste or gas or whatever, I'm into it, So it's been a great trade. Great industry. I'm a local. I'm a native here from Santa Monica, born and raised. So I take the city very, very serious.
Mm-hmm. Where did you learn to fit your first pipe? And were you straight out of high school looking to get into the plumbing trade, or did it take you some time to figure out your career path?
No, I didn't know what I was gonna do. Most plumbers are kind of that way. I was kind of a knucklehead. I was always in trouble. And one day I was a mutual, we'll say a family friend was a plumber, and he said, I'm gonna get him straight and meet me on this job site. And I went over there, and he pretty much beat the poop out of me in work. And it was a new construction job, and my knees were shaking and everything. And I don't want to admit that I was really getting the poop beat out of me. It was physical labor. It was pretty tough. And I was like, and then he said, okay. So I didn't think much about it. And he called me 2 weeks later and said, what do you think about being a new construction apprentice plumber? And oh, wow. I didn't ask what I was getting paid. I didn't ask anything. I just showed up where to go, and the rest is history. And it was, I knew it was a career. I knew I wasn't going to go to college. I wasn't going to go, and so it came out of nowhere, and I've been grateful ever since, and I try to encourage others to do the same,
You said it was hard, sort of laborious work at the start. Can you give us a sense about what a typical day in the life of a plumbing apprentice is, and then what sort of steps you take to move up the ladder, if you will, as far as training and career goes?
Well, typically for a new construction type of apprentice, you're going to be doing a lot of digging, right? Because the pipes are in the ground, so they got to get to them. So you're going to be doing a whole lot of digging, and you'll be maybe busting concrete, or you'll be lifting pipe, taking them up 2, 3, 4, 5 flights of stairs all day, cast iron pipe, and you may be soldering, you may be, there's just various different things. But usually when you're an apprentice, when you first come in, you're going to be a laborer pretty much, but to the industry. So, but you're still learning. You're learning about the material. You're learning about the weight of the material. Obviously, you're learning how to dig, you're learning how to backfill. You're already learning from day one, and it's if you don't mind getting dirty and being in the sun and sweating, it's kind of fun. It makes you feel really good at the end of the day.
Mhm. How long are you typically an apprentice? And what is the next step in the career ladder?
Apprenticeships are usually, they used to be 4 years, and typically now they're 5 years. And you have to meet certain testing and classes every year, and depending on what program you go to, but typically right now it's at night, whether it's union or not. Most of them your employer pays, so your education is paid for. You're getting paid while some of them get paid while they're in class, some of them get paid just during the day. The union pays for everything. And you get college credits for it. And so you come out of there as a journeyman, you could be making about $50 an hour, and you'll have medical, dental, you'll have a pension, you'll have retirement, you'll have college credits, all paid for.
Wow, that's an incredible opportunity for someone to really put in that time to get, 4 or 5 years of work and to have such a high paying job with all those benefits coming out of that. That's a great opportunity.
It
Are
is, it
there,
is.
yeah,
Go ahead.
are there multiple unions when you're talking about union works for plumbers? Is there one particular, or are there options or different union pathways
Well,
for plumbers
there's
specifically?
for plumbing specifically, there's really only one. There's different locals. There's the UAs, United Association, and which I'm a member of, and they're in here in the United States, Canada, uh, Ireland, and Australia. So we interchange things like in the environmental end, we talk with the Australian guys quite a bit from their big drought they had years ago, and what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and
Right.
so it's nice to talk to them because it's coming from hands-on, boots on the ground guys that had to go back and fix and repair certain things. And you learn different things. Like here they were talking about dirty gray, and over there they're like, stay away from it, it burns the soil, and da 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 da. So it's nice to talk to it's because it's truly international. So and you learn from others' mistakes, the bottom line. But yeah, the UA is the one that's really the only plumbers union. Then there's other organizations though that are not union, but they're still organizations that are nationally recognized, and some of them predate the union. They're back from the 1800s. um, and there's a few of them as well. And they're just as good. I taught at one of them, and I came out of one of them. I was taught, I did my apprenticeship through it, PHCC, and then I taught there for almost 10 years. So, and then there's another one down here in Long Beach, and then there's the community colleges. They have classes and they have programs. There's LA Trade Tech. There's multiple different programs out there trying to get individuals out there, to train them. It's kind of hard with the union. It's good because you're already employed in the industry and they're trying to train you. Where if you go into the local schools or private, it's kind of hard because it's harder to learn when you're not in the industry and you're trying to learn something that you don't have hands on with. So, you know,
I see. I really think that's interesting. You're talking about this international aspect and learning from plumbers in other countries, lessons learned. Would you agree that the skills that you learn as a plumber here could be transferred over to other states or even other countries? I know you've been in Santa Monica for most of your career in life, but it seems like a skill that you could really take with you anywhere in the world.
no, most
And how do you think it's
definitely.
different from place to place? Yeah.
We have in the union in my car, I don't go out and do that work anymore, but they have travel cards. So let's say they're doing work in Boston. I could just call up and say, hey, I'm going to go. You guys need help? I'm going. Like when we have the Olympics coming, we're going to be clearing out halls all over the country. There'll be guys from all over the country coming over here to get work done because we all use the same codes pretty much. I mean, we're supposed to be all the same, but each jurisdiction does have its own little twist. So, but primarily it's all the same. So yeah, you can go anywhere because it's even out of, not just out of the state, out of the country. And I do travel quite a bit because of IAPMA, one of the organizations I'm involved with that writes the code, and I'm on some of the committees there. And so I do get to travel, and I do get exposed to other states and what their practices are and what they do and what they're, whether it's up, up in the north or in the south or back east, or, and it's, you learn different things that I go, don't work too good here. I remember talking to the guys from Texas about, they have roof siphonage drains that I'm not big on here. We're not big because it never rains really here, but they like it because it's smaller pipe. But they used it down there right before there was a big storm that came, and I was like, wow, everything got flooded and wiped out in Texas. And so I called my buddies down there, and I'm like, hey, how did your roof drains work out, man? Because what better test than having a hurricane come into town? And they did great. They did great. So to me, that's where you learn. We're like, hey, okay, all right, hey, if it can handle that, what they got going on over there, I don't see why it couldn't handle this.
Mm-hmm. Well, you brought up some really interesting points. One, I think it's a cool opportunity for union plumbers just to be able to travel and get those opportunities. So it seems like for a union plumber, you could decide to stay in your city as like a home base, or if you got a travel bug and are at that age where it's okay to travel,
Yeah,
there are opportunities to do that as well. So that's really interesting. And then
yeah,
you
it's
also touched
it's
on,
great.
yeah, and then you also just touched on sort of regional specific type of plumbing designs. And that got me thinking about innovation in your industry. And are there plumbing innovations that have come online in the last few years, or something that you're excited about into the future as far as plumbing technology or techniques?
Um, Not actually, I'm not. To be honest, I'm the only. My concern is getting people in it, to learn.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's like we're kind of dropping, and it's like it'd be nice to get more people in the mix, so there is more, thought and ideas. There's a lot of attempt of things to coming in, but they're not unproven methods. We're in plumbing, especially in the training, we really push proven methods, because you're taking somebody else's money and building something for them, and you want it to be a proven method. You don't want to practice on somebody. You don't want to go to the doctor and tell them, I've never done this before, but we're going to try on your brain surgery. We don't want that. We want it so, like, hey, this is has a proven track record to work. So that's why we do talk to each other. But I can't say there's anything new in the industry right now that I could get excited about. Um, you know, Other than, it's maybe uh, I don't know.
How
There
about
is
some of
always change.
the, like, we talk a lot about drought conditions, and you talked about your colleagues in Australia. Do you have any stories about things that they do there that we don't do here that might be a good idea?
I learned some things. They had a couple guys that were from the UA down there, and they came up specifically about their what they learned through the drought of that. They call it like the 10-year drought or something.
Mhm.
This was about probably 10 years ago, but it was, and then, but yeah, they had some pretty wild things that they had come up with that were like, whoa. And yeah, hey, you got to do what you got to do. And I mean, it was so dry. I don't know if you guys know, but it was so dry that the ground was cracking up, and like, it was crazy. And they were having dry drain syndromes, they call it, in the infrastructure, where things were dry. There wasn't enough water in the sanitary system to keep things moving on the public side, forget about on property. So they were getting kind of inventive on, they had this little, like, kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like when you're a kid and you put a ball and it rolls and it hits this and it falls that, and the what do you call that, like they did on the Goonies type of thing. It's like a little,
Uh-huh.
you know, anyhow, they had something where it was in the drain, where it was kind of wild. It had like a little dam that, when it would fill up with water in the building's sanitary drain, it would fill with water, and then it would drop and then go. And it was making it so it would minimize, hopefully, the dry drain syndrome. So instead of just flushing the toilet and it would go, it would kind of hold on to it and let it kind of like stew. And then when it filled with water, it would all go together again. And they would kind of keep doing that. And it was interesting because it didn't really work and it caused problems, but that's how desperate they were to try to, eventually they ripped them all out, but it was an attempt. It was an attempt, but it showed, like you said, people tried to come up with things, and it's worth trying because you just don't know what's going to work and what isn't till you do it.
Mm-hmm. Does the union have any sort of R&D arm? Because I know you mentioned you don't want to install something on a client's building that isn't proven. So where does the R&D come from, and is the plumbers union looking into innovations? Maybe
Well,
like
I can't speak for
at a
the
training facility.
They do have some stuff, I can't speak for them. I think Jaime's
Okay.
coming in a couple weeks, and he could
Yeah.
he does knows much more about it, but they primarily in the industry, that's one of the committees I'm on with IABMO, which is they what happens is we have a standards review committee, so there's standards that are written, and then there's a product certification committee, and I'm on that. So what happens is they write the standard, then the companies or manufacturer makes it, and then the product, we look at it, see if it's co-compliant, see blah 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 blah, and then they bring up paperwork and they show. So it's pretty much through the industry. And as long as it's safe and it's not a hazard to somebody, and it complies with whether it's materials or whatever, they'll it might get approved, and it may be successful, it may not be, but there's it's primarily the manufacturers in the industry that do it, and
That makes
then
sense.
we learn through trial and error. You just know when things get put in. You could talk to a plumber, you get 100 plumbers and have 100 different ideas, but we do kind of think the same about certain things, certain practices that we're all on board with pretty much.
Cool. So I'd like to, I guess, shift some of the questions over to potential job seekers or someone that's looking at getting into a career in plumbing. You mentioned union jobs, but I guess more generally, what are the current job opportunities in the plumbing field? And is the job title plumber or union plumber? I guess I'm a little confused about the union versus non-union, and are there some plumbing companies, so are like independent plumbing companies non-union, and then union jobs are more like public sector? Can you describe the differences there? And if someone's looking at getting into plumbing, you mentioned like the trade tech school route versus the union educational route.
Well, the union's going to be more organized pretty much, and that's because the union's about the labor. It's on the labor end, so they're doing the training, they're trying to provide bodies that are well trained and that people know what they're doing and educated, and certified to do the work. That's what their main goal is, and also to get them paid, and get benefits, make it a worthy career. But on the flip side, like you say, there's plenty of people that have never been. We have a couple individuals here in Santa Monica that never been a day in school, and they study their code book and they know what they're doing. And they do beautiful work, beautiful work. So the beauty of plumbing is that it's not mandatory that you go through this process. I mean, it would be good, but I mean, if you're sharp and you can back up your work and you don't mind hard work, there's a lot of good businesses out there, family businesses, or just solo shops, one person on their own, and they can make really good money. And there's plenty of opportunity, whether it's water treatment or reuse, like what you're into. It's just because they're high maintenance. Those are all high maintenance. If you do the regular systems, you put it in. We were taught you put the system in, you never really need a plumber. If installed properly, you don't ever need it to be maintained ever again. Really, it's done. But with these new systems, they take high maintenance, very high maintenance. So you're going to have to be in the house like every 6 months or a year to maintain the heat exchanger, maintain filters, maintain, replace parts, and things like that. So they're going to, it's creating this whole maintenance, industry.
And taking it back, we got a question in the chat, and I think it's a really good one. How would a young person prepare to enter the plumbing trade? Like even middle school, high school, or are there certain skills or yeah, certain skills that they should at least study or familiarize themselves? I mean, I think math is probably pretty important for plumbers, right?
Yes, good point. And they do push heavy on the math. I was horrible at math, but so I try to make it up in other ways, but you're right. When you go to when they start picking what the guys that are good in math, they get the top of the list. They come out first. So because they could do the layout, they can do the estimating, they can do a lot of things, but it doesn't make the whole, it doesn't mean if you're not good at math, there's not room for you. There's room for everybody. So there's but I personally believe, because I get it from everywhere, wherever I travel, wherever in the country, wherever, and whether it's the meetings here in town or wherever I do. And I was telling Carla just yesterday, I bumped into a guy in Torrance and that I known for a long time. And it's a number one thing is guys need help. They need help. They're looking for help. And the number one thing I would say would be to be a team player, to show up on time and be strong in your people skills. If you can be strong in your people skills and you could, be a team player and be a pleasure to work around. And I tell my students, I'd say, you possess within you the number one attribute that can make you succeed in business and in this industry. And that is how you carry yourself, how you talk to people. How are you inviting? Does somebody want you in your house? You don't want to look all crazy and have a bad attitude. They don't want you in their house. If you look like you pull up in a car and there's a cheeseburger on the dashboard and a beer can, they're going to be like, I don't want that guy in my house. But if you're clean and your truck's clean and you're well, versed and they're like, oh, this is, it really matters. Our people skills or our soft skills are paramount, and it's been kind of lost, and that doesn't get pushed too much. But if you have those skills, people will pick you up and they're going to keep you. I've seen guys where they can't they'll let everybody go but that guy. He's the lowest paid guy, but they keep him just because they don't want to be alone and he's fun to be around or something, and there's plenty of room for the ladies too. Just so I happen to know she used to work for the city of LA, Laura Sieja. She was in the plumbers union. She worked for the city of LA for a long time, and then she's on a national level. That's her job, is to promote the ladies in the industry, and she has a women in construction program that tries to recruit young ladies into the industry. And that's a huge opening, because they're I don't want to. I know we're being videotaped, so I don't want to be. But with the ladies, they can be very professional in ways that the guys aren't. We'll say, I guess. I don't know if I can say that, but it's like, it's being truthful. They're not intimidating. They may not go to the house or the property and I think they know it all and be rude. So there's a big demand for them.
Absolutely, diversity is important in any field.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that in the plumbing trade, the percentages are obviously way skewed toward it's male dominated. And so I'm really glad you brought that up. And I wouldn't want women to be discouraged from trying to enter this trade.
No, there's a huge opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there's a huge opportunity. If there's any ladies that if they're I try to, like, when I see them. I met one there's a lady working over here, one of the compost girls that works over here at compost. One of the girls, she packs drywall. I don't know if you guys have been in construction. You ever pack drywall? Mike's probably done some drywall. I'll tell you, man, that's tough work. And right? It's like she said, I do drywall. I said, wow, hey, you know what? We could use you. You could be a plumber. You told her kind of what she could make and what she could do. And, I tried to send her over to Laura, but there's opportunity for everybody. And even if you're not even, you don't have to be big and strong. You don't have to be that. It could be, there's sales, there's marketing, there's laying jobs out. There's just anything and everything possible, and we need it in every way.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking of middle school, high school again, going back to that, learning math, science, the STEM subjects. Like math is great, but not necessary. I mean, the people skills, teamwork is important. And then say graduating high school, the next step could be looking at trade schools, community colleges, union. Can you do that right out of high school?
Yep, you
And
can.
in those programs, do they, because you mentioned sales and marketing and estimating, do they teach those things in the same program?
Yes, they have it depends on, they don't just offer it to everybody right off the bat. So there's certain,
Okay.
you have to do it in a series. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, there's it's endless, the different classes, and whether they're not just a class in a college, it might just be a seminar or something, but there's different opportunities to focus on that. And yeah, but again, I would be honest, every day what I hear, it's not, and that's why, you know, I'm not pushing the school thing, not anti-school at all, because it's in construction, if you want to be the best, it's a 50-50 deal. You need to go to school and you need to be hands-on. You need both. And to be hopefully the best, there's people that can do just one, but it makes it harder. But the real shortage is the soft skills, the people skills. That's where it's getting missed. If you can go, you can do great in your math, that's great. You can do all that. You can go to trade tech, you can go to the union, but you can have all that. You can have all that. But if you're not a joy to work with, then you're not showing up on time, it's not going to work out. And the guys or the people in the trades are they're just tired of it. So it's like, if you can just show up on time, you don't have to do any of that. You go to a local job site. We got construction sites on every single block in the city. And you could be in high school or you could be junior high school, and on the weekend, I'm not playing, you could go and just be persistent. Hey, can I help out? They might, tell you scram, but you just keep asking them. Start pushing the broom. Just like own it. Start taking it like old school. They're gonna be like, hey, we like this kid. Hey, let's put him to work. Let's say you want to go. You don't know what could happen, and it's just about being persistent and believing that you can make it happen. And it can. They can. They don't have to have a piece of paper. They don't have to have just your personality. Just show up and I want to work. I want to work, and put me to work. Literally, like, put it out there, and you're gonna it's gonna hit. It's gonna hit. You're gonna be a hit.
Yeah, you got to stand out. Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So that is great advice. And I guess how would maybe a more traditional route, how do employers in the plumbing field recruit candidates? Do they post on job boards like other employers, or
You can
if
go to the
someone say
supply.
has the training, how would they look for a job?
Well, usually because we kind of all know each other. So, and I'll be honest, I don't know. I've never met an out of work plumber. I don't know any. I don't. So, but there's people who do come from out of town. But we're all the same everywhere. So you go to Supply House, and there's guys always looking there, but they usually don't post it because they just always got there's an eye out for somebody who wants to work. And that's why I go back to, just show up to a job site, because it's the conventional ways of, posting things and interviews are not, a lot of them don't have time.
You said supply house. What's a supply house?
The supply house where we get our materials, you go over there. So usually in the morning, first thing in the morning, you can't be working, most of LA, you can't start till 7, and Santa Monica, you can't start till 8. So prior to that, they might go to the supply house and pick up some, something that was missing from the day before or whatever. And there, guys might have a cup of coffee and, chew the fat for a second before they go off to the job. So we all kind of, that's where we all kind of keep in touch, that this one's being busy, that one's not busy or whatever. And there's a billboard there, and they'll put on it, I have my chapter meetings. I usually go in there and I post it, so the guys know, hey, we're talking about this month or that month or whatever. And, that's like our little water hole, or whatever you want to call it, watering hole, or,
Unintended. Your water cooler conversations.
There you go. There you go.
Well, this has been great. I just wanted to invite folks that are participating to throw any questions in the chat. So getting towards the end of the prepared questions. I guess this is kind of a different one, but do plumbers coordinate with other tradespeople, or is it pretty insular?
No, we do. You have to. And the way it works in construction, a general, I was very fortunate. I worked with a very good group of people that helped develop most of Santa Monica in the 50s and 60s and even 70s. And they're very well organized, and so they were knocking it out. They were part of the big boom back then, and so when you have a good general contractor, he's like the orchestrator. He makes sure that the guy that's supposed to blow the trombone is doing it when he's supposed to, and making sure the guy beating the drums is doing it when he's supposed to as well. So that's the key. So we work with the carpenters. We fight a lot because they look at us like termites because we're drilling holes in their stuff, and it's like they just put in this and that, and then we come along and chop it up. Because the plumbers are there from the groundwork all the way to finish, so we're there the longest actually out of anybody. You have the concrete guys, you work with them because you got to do the groundwork. You got the framer, so you're dealing with him, and then you got the electrician, you're dealing with him. You might be dealing with the roofer, you're dealing with the tile guy, you're dealing with the flooring guys, you're dealing with the landscaper, you're dealing with, because you're asking him what does he need exactly. We'll run the water and we're responsible for the valving, but we don't do the sprinklers. That's for we respect. Hey, I'm a professional and I'm not going to do that. That's because I don't know how much water it needs. A plumber, you ask him to do landscaping, he's just going to flood the place. He's just going to dump water on it. Where a guy that does landscaping, he's a professional landscaper, he's going to say, oh, this plant only needs this and this. They know. So it's like, he does all the piping, but we need to know how much water he needs, so we know how many stations to put, or what size pipe to put, or what have you. So yeah, there's we do work with the other industries, and that's what the big joy is too. One of the joys is that you really get to see everything, and you learn how easy it is. It's construction's great.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about different size piping and to deliver the right amount of water needed. Are those standards built into the codes that you are an expert of, and you rely on a lot, those plumbing codes? Does that create the standard for pipe sizing and fitting and all that? And follow-up question is, can you put a link to those codes in the chat at some point? Because we had a participant ask about that.
Well, I can do what I can do. Yes, it does, because of known, velocities. They know, okay, hot water is only going to be, 5 feet per second, and cold water you can go 8, because, and there's velocities, there's volume, there's pressures. We have charts, and that's why, like you say, the math is important, but when you know the code, the math's already done for you, so you can use the charts. So there's 2 different options pretty much on a lot of it. So, but yes, the code that is all built into it for sizing, for whether it's waste, water, gas, storm drains. They have formulas for everything, and it's pretty straightforward, and it's been the same pretty much. Water's still wet. So, yeah.
I checked.
Yeah, and it weighs the same, and that doesn't change. It's so there's certain things that just don't change, and so you focus on it. As far as a link to the codes, I would just say you can go for here. You can just Google California Building Standards Commission. That's all you got to do, California Building Standards Commission, and it'll pop up, and you'll see on the website, it'll say codes, a tab, and it has all our codes. It'll have our building codes, our energy codes, our electrical codes, mechanical, plumbing, whatever codes you want to find for the building industry is there,
So that's another skill. I mean, math is important to do calculations on the fly or when needed, but probably another skill is reading code, and code language and codes in general are lengthy documents, and so having the research skills to be able to find information you need on demand is a skill in itself. Are there tools to do that you'd recommend, or do you just recommend having all code language and, searching within it?
You have to just start getting used to how it works, but it's a process of kind of like elimination. You can go, like I said, you go to the Building Standards Commission, you go to that website and you hit codes and it shows all the codes. You see plumbing, you pick plumbing, you look at the front page, and it's going to tell you chapter 1 is administration, 2 is definitions, 3 is general requirement. I know them all by heart because I've been doing it forever, but it's like the already, okay, it's in chapter 5, or it could be in chapter 3, or it could be in chapter 10. You already know, like, I got this primary one and then I'll keep looking, and then there's sometimes just cross references to other, books. So they and it's interesting. I think I was kind of unknowingly kind of primed to do it very well, because I went to, Mike probably knows, I went to Olympic, right? So back then, Olympic used to be on 17th Street, right? Or 16th Street. And
We're talking about Olympic High School?
yeah. And so
Okay.
I did all 3 years there because I was always in trouble, right? So I was like, but it was a little different program then. Back then, you could do everything, like, there was no bells, there was none of this. Anyhow, bottom line, I remember I was in the 12th grade and my counselor says, Shane, you haven't even done the 9th grade. What are you going to do? And so I remember back then you could do, so I did 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th in about, I'm not kidding, like in 4 or 5 months. And people say, how did you do that? How could you? But it was all about, like, kind of like reverse. What they do is they give you a test, and all you do is you would just look for, instead of reading the whole book, you back, like, kind of reverse engineer it, right? So you get used to doing that. You know what the problem is, and you go find the answer. So and we're taught in a typical school to read everything, and then you're supposed to memorize it, and then you're supposed to find it. Well, we know that in construction, especially legal documents, or even lawyers, or and I tell my students, there's no way you can memorize all these codes. It's just that's crazy. You're not going to memorize them, but you do need to know where to find them. So once you learn how to do it, like you said, that's the key, is that you find out, okay, what's the question? Okay, it's something to do with water. Okay, we're going to go to water, and then we're going to go back. And so it's like you start going backwards on it, and you get very proficient at finding what the answer is. And the nice thing about it, kind of goes in hand with, in construction generally, everything's a process of elimination. You may not know what the answer is to your problem, but you're saying, okay, I know it's not this, so I'll take that out, and I know it's not that, so I'll take that out, and all you got left is whatever it is. So but anyhow, yeah. And I learned that at Olympic. It's funny. Because that's how they used to do it back then. They didn't have it. It's a different program, I think. Now it's more, they got periods and everything, but back then you could just blow it up. And I did. I went in there and I just, like a steam engine, just knocking out books, just like one at a time. And I don't think they let you do that anymore.
Yeah, open book tests, right?
No. Well,
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes,
well, it's
and
kind
no.
of like how it is in the real world.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because it would give you they would just say, hey, they throw a book at me, big old book, and they say, okay, here, take the final. Let me see how you do with the final test. So boom, 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 boom. Hey, well, that's cheating. Well, whatever. You got the answers. They're right there. And do I remember them? No. Do you remember them? If you read them the other way, I don't think so either. So it's like, I look at it this way: you don't have to know it all. Just know where you can find it. Where is it at? Where, you want to get the right answer, regardless. Whether you know it by heart or you got to check it up. It's like, we want to get the right answer. And so, and I kind of learned that young, which was, it was kind of, now it's kind of more acceptable, but back then it wasn't. Back then it was like, you're supposed to read it and know it by heart.
Mm-hmm. And in the plumbing trade, you want to get it right the first time, because I'd imagine making a mistake in plumbing can be pretty expensive. Or, I mean, because you're talking about plumbers are involved from the beginning of a project to the end. There's pipes underground, in the walls,
Yeah.
in the ceiling,
Right.
connecting the house to the street. So, you probably measure twice, cut once, right?
Yeah, because especially certain things like what I deal with primarily right now, which is the restaurants, right? We got about 400 roughly food establishments in town, and they come and they go. It's a very rough business, and so there's a lot of plumbing involved, and there's dealing with different AQMD. There's the health department. There's us. There's municipal codes. There's all these different agencies or we'll say authorities that have involvement in it, and I have to make sure that everybody kind of touches, make sure they kind of get them all. So there's like, and it's expensive because you already have a restaurant that you're supposed to open. They're paying $35,000 a month, and they're small restaurant, and they're spending, that's just for rent, and they got to get this place up and running, and they can't afford to get it wrong, and it's that's where it's worth it. It's worth it. The house is pretty easy, but the commercial stuff, especially the restaurants, there's a lot of work in there, and it's like, for you, it's very energy intensive. The restaurants are brutal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Use a lot of water, a lot of
Yeah,
power, a lot of
a lot of
fans.
appliances. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. There's
Yep.
a lot of opportunity there, and they don't get used. There's a lot of opportunity for the water heaters, like your solar system type of thing, where they could, offset some energy use there, but they don't have a roof. What do you do if you don't have a place to put the equipment that could help you save a lot of money?
Mhm. Yeah, if they don't own the roof. Yeah, looking at heat pump water heaters or other sort of electrification technology, that's something that's part of my work. Do we have any questions from the participants here? I think I wanted to just invite either Mike or Hajar.
Mike,
Mike,
I got
go ahead, Mike.
Actually, hi everyone. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Anyhow, thanks for doing it, Shane. I got a question with the thing that just happened the day before yesterday or whatever. Hyperion did one of their outflow problems, and I don't remember the name of the engineer that was working for Santa Monica and went over there to help redesign Hyperion so they could do whatever beyond tertiary cleanings so that we could reclaim the water that got spilled out in the bay. And wonder if you have any insights into where we're at with that. Is that still happening? Because I said, one of my things was like, hey, when you get it clean enough, I'll take the first sip of cocktail with you guys when it's all done.
I've drank that water there. That's the was it the Ed Little or Ed Lytle reclamation plant over there? But and you can drink it. I've drank it. I don't think anybody else in the tour drank it, but I'm crazy, I guess, so I drank it. But the truth is they have, that's an impressive plant. They have tours there. It'd probably be good to get a class going. I've done tours there with my group, and the problem with the Hyperion is that, as there's in plumbing, there's things happen, and we had that one. I don't know all the details, but I heard the beach is closed because they had an overflow. They had something, some I don't know what the details were, but supposedly actually things did work the way they were supposed to. And that was an emergency situation where I guess they took it out. They have a 1 mile and a 3 mile and a 9 mile discharge on the Hyperion that goes out to the bay. And then, but I guess I don't know what all happened there, but I know that it's happened in the past. I know that like in Culver City, every city's different, and like our systems on gravity, the only lift station we have is the one by the pier there that picks up stuff from PCH. But Culver City has like 8 lift stations, and I know that some years ago they were fudging. I guess somebody was they weren't operating the valves or maintaining them, and so what happened was one failed, which then it overflowed to the second one, and it failed, and then it failed. Bottom line, they had like 5 lift stations fail, and the Bologna Creek was loaded with I don't know how many millions of gallons, and it all went out there, and yeah, there was big fines. But that it can happen it happens time to time. It's typical. That's why we don't allow this is why in the plumbing code, we do not allow any stormwater to be connected to the sewer system, period. And because of that, because what happens is when it rains, it comes up and it wipes out the Hyperion plant and it overflows and goes out into the bay, you know, and so we don't allow that. But you know, it's sometimes people try to do it, but it's not allowed. It's because of that simple reason. We want to, you know, the Hyperion plant can only take so much. So you don't want to add anything to it, you know. They do a good job over there about the treatment. I don't know if you guys have been down there, but they do a really good job. And then the treatment plant that's across the street, like I said, you can drink the water there. They got that goes into LAX. They got like a, I don't know, man, 36-inch line or something going into LAX doing fire protection or something. They got some heavy water over there. You know, we could have tapped. We didn't need to build what we're building. We could have just tapped into theirs. Probably would have been cheaper, but you know, we want to have our own, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, they can't use it up enough because you're talking, that's a lot of water, a lot of treatment.
Interesting discussion. Great. Well, would you like to any closing remarks? I think I'd probably just like to sum up for, you know, potential job seekers or folks looking to get into this trade at different age levels. How would you recommend they make their first step? Say like someone in high school, someone that's maybe in their 20s, or someone making a career change, sort of midlife. What would you say? Who should they contact, or where should they get involved to start?
I'm gonna keep going. I keep hitting that broken rib. You know, I'm one of those guys. I tell you, go old school. Go to the job site. We got job sites all over the city. They're all over the country. Construction's #1 economic stimulator. You know, period. Go out there, show your face, show them your personality, show them that you're there to work, and show up there, and you keep going. It's like the old days. They used to have people you see in the movies in the 20s and 30s. They line up outside of a job site, you know, waiting for work for the guy to get fired or fall off a building, and they would go in there and get hired. And it's pretty much that same type of mentality, that if you do that, that there's a very good chance you're going to get picked up and you're going to learn something. You know, and it doesn't matter the age, or, you know, whether you're a girl or guy or whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. There's room for everybody. I go to the prison. I had a gate clearance at Chino for 6 years, going in there talking to those guys. You know, when they get out, it's like, hey, you know, there's plenty of work for you guys. You don't have to have an education. You can just show up and make. Some of them might not be able to go into schools, or may not be able to go into, you know, certain properties, but, you know, there's still room for you.
That's a recurring theme I'm hearing from all tradespeople I talk to, is that people are hiring and they need a skilled workforce. And so for anyone looking, make those first steps. Show up at the job site, make connections, network, be diligent, show that you can be there on time, and you've got personality and willing to learn.
Push the broom. Just start pushing
and
the
there's
broom.
Also formal training as well.
No, that'll come later, because the biggest problem is having the people skills. That's the #1 thing. That's what's going to get you hired. That's what's going to get you fired, is your people skills. That's the bottom line. You don't play well, you're not going to stick around. They're going to cut you. But if you know, they don't care if you don't know how to solder. You can dig, you can do other things. There's things you can do, but they can't train your personality. That they can't do. They can send you to school how to be a plumber, but they can't teach you how to be a team player. That's got to be within you. And that's why I tell the students, we possess within us the skills to do what you need, you know, to go where you want to go. And that's why it's like I implore or employ. I just ask anybody and everybody that is interested in any kind of trade like that it's not like the other careers. You just go do it. Just go to the job site and say, I want to work. So what if they laugh at you and say, get out of here? You go to the next one. You go to the next one. You know, it's like when your kid go to the dance, right? First girl says no, you keep asking. Somebody wants to dance. Somebody's gonna let you dance, right? It's just how it is. It's okay. It's okay to be told no. You know, you just keep being persistent, and they people respect that. They're like, hey, I don't know, but you know, that person's persistent and they really want to work. You know, let's give them a chance. It's really, it works. Nobody says that anymore, but it's the truth. That's, it's every contractor I deal with, they ask me, they know I get around. They're like, hey, I need a guy. And I am like, or I need a girl, I need a person, I should say, and it's like, it's that's the number one complaint. They letting guys go, whether it might be substance use, or it might be they didn't show up on time, or a poor attitude, or whatever it is. Those are the things. I've never heard anybody say I got a guy that knew too much. I haven't heard that one yet. I haven't heard anybody getting fired for that. But I have heard, people saying I need a team player. I need a person that has, and then the rest happens just organically, you just learn, and you're going to make good money. Like I said, you can make good money. You just have your own business. People start their own business and make really good money. Make that. You say you can't afford to buy a house in Santa Monica. Well, there's a lot of plumbers own homes here.
Well, that sounds like good motivation to anyone watching this. There's lots of opportunity and lots of room for growth, and there's room for everyone. So make moves, get in the trades.
Yeah, like even here's a good example. Was there 4 of us, 5 of us?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, 6.
And many more we'll watch later.
But it's frustrating because it's like, we did career day, and you saw the kids, there's, 800 kids at San Juan or whatever, and there would be all the kids, there would be stuff for the computers, there's stuff for acting, there's stuff for, and they would take the whole, they would get a lot of focus. But when it came to the trades, we'd be lucky to get 5 or 6, and it's just mind-boggling, because you're like, wow, here's an industry that is the #1 economic stimulator in the greater Los Angeles area, and there's a big need for hiring, but no, everybody just walks past. It's like, you're like, I had hair before. So anyhow.
Yeah. Well, we're here to promote and just have a more sustainable future. The trades are a vital part of that. So this speaker series is just one of the many tools we can utilize to educate people on how to enter the trades and make a difference. So I don't have any other questions. This has been a great session, Shane. Really appreciate your experience, your insight, and your candid advice for folks interested in the plumbing trade. So thank you again.
Yeah, I thank you guys for trying. I mean, this is tough. I mean, this is great. So maybe next time there's 6, or maybe there's whatever. Every person matters. Every edition matters. So it's like, hey, you know what? This is great. I gotta give it to you. All of you for I saw it in the paper. I see it every, and it's like, hey, and like I said earlier, you guys are not, and ladies are not. You're not saying, oh, well, I'm not having this or that, I'm going to fold up and go home. No, you're making it happen. And that demands respect, as far as the way I see it. And I thank all of you for putting this together.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. We'll call it here, and looking forward to next week. We have 5 more speakers lined up. So stay tuned, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shane.